If you've experienced something unbelievably weird and unexplainable that left you feeling isolated and afraid, the Paranormal PTSD Recovery Podcast is for you. Each week, we go from haunting to healing by focusing on one of our three core focal points: personal stories, healing tips, and understanding the unknown. We help you to know that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you can heal. Now here's your hostess, Laura Giles. There are a lot of people who need therapy for paranormal PTSD who aren't getting therapy. They're fake and fine, and sometimes they don't even realize it. I want to talk about this today because if you're one of these people, you're suffering needlessly because you don't know that you're not okay. So how can that be? Sounds kind of stupid. I mean, you're the authority on your own situation, right? Wouldn't you know if you're not okay? We're going to talk about that on this episode of Paranormal PTSD Recovery. But first, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the survivors of Hurricane Helene in Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. If you haven't seen the devastation, it's absolutely apocalyptic. You're not supposed to have a flood in the mountains, but that's exactly what happened. The water took out homes, farms, and whole communities. The government is doing very little to help. Good Samaritans are flying in with helicopters, hiking in, taking horses, donkeys, and even goats to bring supplies to people who have just lost everything. FEMA was confiscating donations and blocking people from coming and going. So if you want to help, please see the links in today's show notes. These are reputable places that are getting supplies to the people who need them. Please pass this along. These people will need help for months to come. Think of this as happening in phases. They need things like food, water, garbage bags, shovels, generators, flashlights, fuel, and batteries for cleanup now. There are many people without power or shelter, and they're going to need coats, tents, medicines, diapers, and staples to get them through the winter. So please give generously. If you have a needed skill like nursing, mental health, or construction, they need volunteers for that too. So check the show notes for how to connect with an organization to help. It's all about people helping people. If you have a good neighbor, you're a rich person, and we're all neighbors on planet Earth. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome to the show. I'm Laura Giles, your host. I'm a licensed clinical social worker practicing trauma therapy in Virginia and Indiana. I've been doing this a long time and have worked with disaster victims like people who survived Hurricane Katrina, people with medical PTSD, religious trauma syndrome, domestic violence, sexual assault, victim of crimes, and experiencers of traumatizing paranormal events. I've worked in the prison settings, courts, psychiatric hospital, and now in private practice. So I've seen tons of people who have come through a lot of disturbing events. And the ones that I feel the worst for are the ones who don't realize that they need help. So they don't get help. They're the ones who are fake and fine. They might have imposter syndrome. So they're functional and they often are pretty successful. They have good careers, nice homes, and a life that looks pretty American dream like on the outside, but they wonder why they aren't happy. So take Jerry. He's a 39-year-old white male who works in the finance industry, and he went to a prestigious school and was recruited right out of college by a company whose name you would recognize. He has a beautiful wife and two children, and they live in a gated community. Jerry works out, goes to his kids' games, and socializes with adults once or twice a month. And yet he feels like a fraud. He feels like the person that other people see isn't him. He thinks he doesn't deserve his life. And if he's honest, he doesn't even want his life. If you ask Jerry what he wants, he doesn't know. If you ask Jerry what he's doing about his discomfort, well, he's not doing anything. He's too busy maintaining his image to do anything else. Even though he thinks nonstop, he has no time to really think about the things like what he wants or what's wrong. He thinks about the next thing he's going to buy, paying the next bill, getting to the next event on time, and making sure he represents well enough to not fall on his face. When it comes to doing something new, he's mentally self sabotaging all the time. He's thinking about all the things that can go wrong and working out ways around them before they can even happen. Or maybe he's thinking of ways to back out of whatever commitment he's in. So he's really a wreck on the inside, but on the outside, he looks like he's living the dream. Add a paranormal experience to that or a lifetime of them, and there's no way that Jerry is going to give any time to thinking about that or talking about that. He shoves that to the back of his mind and says, "It was in the past. I don't even think about that anymore." I hear that a lot. And that kind of thinking may be why he is where he is. Have you seen the movie Gone with the Wind? Scarlett O'Hara had an issue with faking fine. She's hurt when Ashley chooses to marry Melanie instead of her, and she fakes fine and marries Melanie's brother. When her family's home is threatened, she fakes fine and marries her sister's boyfriend to save her home. She fakes fine through the death of her mother and father, starvation, the war, the loss of her own daughter, and her entire life. She doesn't show any true emotion to anyone and doesn't even realize that she loves Rhett until it's too late because she won't let herself feel anything. And I think it's easier to see how sad it is because she has everything. She's safe, and yet none of it matters because she doesn't feel safe inside. Let's take a look at another example from pop culture. How many people saw the Barbie movie? It was cute, right? I thought it was going to be so silly, but actually, it had a heartwarming message. I felt like I should have ended with me feeling satisfied, but something kept nagging at me. Then one day I got it. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it and you want to skip ahead because I'm about to talk about the end, okay? So I thought it was cool that Barbie didn't want Ken. It's perfectly okay for perfect Barbie to not like perfect Ken. I think two perfect people together would be boring, frankly. But Barbie didn't want Ken or anyone else. She wanted to be human and flawed, and that's fantastic. We all have to spend some time getting to know ourselves and exploring life, but I think the script writer missed a big picture, and that is love. You see, when Barbie says no to Ken, she's not just saying no to Ken, she's saying no to love. And people who fake fine typically are doing that too because faking fine is a wall. It's a barrier to intimacy. If I trusted you enough to show you my real self, then I wouldn't have to fake it. It's about creating a facade that's not real and burying whatever you don't want to face far away where neither you nor anyone else can see it. So, if there's a Barbie sequel, my guess is that's going to be the place you'll go next. Now, like Barbie, some people are really good at compartmentalizing things and pretending that they aren't impacted because they don't really think about them day to day. These things really don't haunt them the way that they do with people who have nightmares or live in fear. But this doesn't mean that they're healed. If you want to know for sure, ask your body. The body never lies. And you can do this with me now. Think about something that used to make you anxious, afraid, or kept you up at night. Doesn't matter how long ago it was. It's even better if it's something you think of as healed. Now, bring your attention to your body. Do a body scan from head to toe and notice if there's any sensations in your body. Any tightness, temperature change like hotter or colder than other parts. See if there's any movement like fluttering, vibrating, or buzzing. Notice if that sensation has a color or a texture, like rough, smooth, fluffy, or crinkly. Emotions live in our bodies, and unless you're dissociated, when you feel something, there's going to be a physical sensation in your body. Anger often feels hot, red, and moving in your neck, head, and shoulders. Sadness can feel heavy, dark, and solid in your chest and back. Fear is almost always in the stomach. It's often tight, hard, and cold. But feelings can be anywhere. They can be in your hands, feet, top of the head, or cheeks. When you're faking fine, you're probably ignoring all of these signals. If you were paying attention, you'd know that you aren't fine. So, unless you're dissociated, meaning you're not in your body, the body is the number one way to see if you're faking fine. If you aren't consciously aware, how would you know? If you can think of something and feel not calm and settled in your body, you know that that thing is unresolved. I can tell you that 100% of the time, when I come across somebody with paranormal PTSD who has not had treatment, but they say they're fine, when I poke them to find out they're not fine. Trauma doesn't just go away, it lurks underneath the surface, waiting to get you. So let yourself be poked. This is also a great way to uncover hidden memories. If you think something happened but you can't remember, ask your body. If you get a reaction, there's something there. But let me give you some other signs to look for. The next one is having emotions that project inward instead of outward. In other words, these people always look calm. They may have the occasional explosion when things get out of control, but typically they look like Joe Cool. They're good in a crisis. What's going on is that they have developed great skills of faking fine, which is great. You want somebody who can calmly talk to the bank robber or go into combat or deal with the kidnapper. People can naturally do that when they go into the freeze response during a traumatic event, but when it's over, they should shake, tremble, or break down. That's what wild animals do. That energy has to discharge, but in some mammals, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for research animals, farm animals, pets, animals in zoos, and humans. Now, what do these mammals have in common? They're all in captivity, so we learn not to through learned helplessness. And the problem with those that fake fine is that lifetime of tension never discharges, it goes inward. So these people are masters of control. We tend to think that if something is good, more is more. And in this case, it's not true. This is too much control. And that is what's creating the problem. So these people often live by rules and procedures. As long as you do the right thing at the right time in the right way, things work out. And this is typically true, except that life is not always like that. So when life doesn't go this way, they can take it very hard. They can want to control other people because they think that if you just do what I want, things will be all right. Or if we all follow the rules, everything will be all right. I hate to break it to you, but the one constant in life is that it's always changing. If you don't have flexibility baked into your plan, every day will be chaotic. We have to account for individual differences, the unknown, and life just not being that routine. So rather than having so much control, these people benefit from chilling out a bit. Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Another quality of people who fake fine is that they tend to be high producers. Also a good thing, right? I mean, who doesn't want a partner or employee like that? They do good work with very few mistakes. They're conscientious and tend to put in long hours. Sounds like a model neighbor, partner, or worker, right? Everything has a downside. With these benefits come deficits too. So our guy Jerry and people like him tend to lack receptivity and openness. Can you think of someone like this? Is it easy to give this person feedback? How would Jerry do if you threw him in a new situation? Probably not great because Jerry might not know the rules of the new situation. He hasn't figured out how to look good yet. So he probably doesn't perform well. And that can set off a cascade of self doubt, self criticism, and maybe even explosiveness if he takes it out on others. Another downside is that Jerry might seem pretty emotionally flat or emotionally unavailable, even if he's sociable. He's good with situations, data, and concrete deadlines, and learning the playbook and running with it, but not so great with the fluid give and take of relational situations. So he likely avoids that because it's not predictable and within his control. So he can feel superficially cool, but nobody knows who he is underneath the surface. This can leave Jerry feeling lonely and his friends and family feeling isolated, or they can have a wonderfully transactional relationship that has no real intimacy. If they come to him and try to remedy it, Jerry has no idea what they're talking about or what to do about it. If they give him a list of things to do, like sit with me in the evenings and watch TV with me, he can do that. But when it doesn't fix the problem, they can both feel more frustrated. And Jerry's thinking, I did what you asked, but the problem isn't on the outside, it's an inner issue. Jerry doesn't know how to show what he's feeling, so the other person feels left out and alone. Maybe Jerry wants them to lean in and listen to him, but they can't read him, so they don't. Or maybe they want Jerry to dance and play, but because he's had spent his whole life dodging bullets in his head and is so inner directed, he didn't develop the skills of reading nuances. So the moment passes and it's missed. and they both feel more distance. Jerry has always dealt with this by faking fine. So that's how he looks, so his partner doesn't feel it matters to him. And so the superficial picture continues to look good, but not feel good on the inside. Or maybe the partner isn't clued in at all. They think everything is fine because that's what Jerry presents. So they have no idea at all that there's anything wrong. If you've ever been blindsided by a situation like this, you know how horrible that feels. Now, maybe this rises to the level of PTSD, and maybe it doesn't. It just depends on the severity because everything happens on a continuum, right? But it's certainly anxiety provoking when you think you're doing everything right and can't figure out why it all feels so wrong. You feel like a failure, like you're in the wrong body or the wrong life and you don't know what to do to make it right. In fact, there's a lot of therapists who won't know what to do with this either. When I was a new therapist, a young woman came to see me and we did her intake interview where she shares her life's history. Everything looked great. She reported that there was no trauma. She had a great family. She was on track for her age. She had friends, and everything looked picture perfect. So I work with insurance companies. We have to have a problem statement and a goal, and I have to be able to show that therapy is a medical necessity. She wasn't giving me anything to work with, so I turned her away. I didn't know what else to do. She didn't meet any criteria for any diagnosis, so there was no medical necessity. I'm a bit more experienced now. And the fact that someone took time out of their life to come and see me says something's wrong. I just needed to gain rapport and get her to talk a bit more to uncover what it was. All this is to say that if you are not able to articulate what's wrong, it's probably that you're faking fine and you're so out of touch with your own body that you're missing the signals. Additionally, your template for what good looks like is probably performance based or superficial. In America, most of us are told that success is having a good job, being married with kids, having a degree, and being fit and beautiful. There may be some variations, but that's a general idea. So if you fit that or most of it, you might feel like you have no reason to complain. I mean, what's wrong with you? You have it all, right? Maybe, but something feels off. And if you've had a paranormal experience that scared you don't talk about that. And you wonder if it even happened at all. I mean, maybe you're crazy. Do you think that's enough reason to act like nothing's wrong? Yeah, lots of people do that. Or maybe they do talk about it, but downplay how terrifying it was or how anxiety provoking it still is. If you have a story that consumes you, maybe you tell it a dozen times and then people start to zone out or ask you to talk about something else. So maybe you feel like nobody cares. If they don't think it's a big deal, maybe it's not a big deal. So you let someone else's feelings dictate your thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So let me tell you what's going on so you can make it right. So faking fine is a coping strategy. It's a way to manage your image so that you can avoid shame or being ostracized. And this is a really hard habit to break because it's about survival. We need connection to other people to survive. People provide us with company, entertainment, products, services, and most of all, love. But trauma blocks love. So the strategy that we're using to get love is actually keeping it from us. So what do we do? Well, if trauma blocks love, love heals trauma. That's a quote from Frank Anderson that I think is great for its simplicity. We all have two faces, the face that shines with love and the face that says, I need love. And if you're angry, passive aggressive, distant, sarcastic, controlling, manipulating, preoccupied, critical, or faking fine, you're wearing your I need love face. How can I say that? Well, you are love. I'm love. We're all love. And when we're not in that energy, we're blocking our true selves in order to stay safe. I understand why people do it. All this looks and feels real. We get attached to the dream and think that there's a lot of things that matter that really don't. One day you and I will die and this will all go away, but we'll still be here. And then we can see how silly it all was to be excited about getting that degree or defending our honor. The more you can be in the present moment where the love is, the more you will see that there's so much that doesn't really matter. Now, I have no idea what's going on with the paranormal things that happen. Is Bigfoot real or not? There's a really amazing video going around right now of Bigfoot seen by a hiker in Oklahoma. Is that real? Is it AI? I don't know. Is any of it real? I think that people who say they perceive something did. Is it what they think it is? I don't know. But the fear is real. And if that fear keeps you from having a whole and happy life, isn't that worth examining and healing? It's easier said than done, I know, especially if people let you down and you don't trust them. That's okay. This is your journey, and you don't need other people to change things. All you have to do is be the change. So here's a suggestion, all right? As you wake up and as you go to sleep, smile a Mona Lisa smile and repeat at least 10 times, but more is more. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Then notice all the ways that validate that this is true. If someone holds the door open for you, notice that someone saw you and was polite. If you get extra pepperonis in your pizza, notice how lucky you are. When you hit every light just right, say thanks to your guardian angel. Whatever it is, notice it. Notice when you have more energy in your step. If your pants feel looser or you smile a little more. Pay attention to what happens to you and how you interact with the world, and you will see that you are getting better and better. Now, this isn't my idea. This actually comes from a guy named Emile, I'm not sure, Emile Coué, he's French. He was an early hypnotist and used this mantra to get really great results with his clients. There are way more detailed techniques that you can use for self hypnosis, but I like easy and simple. So why complicate what works? All you have to do to get great results is smile and maintain the practice. You don't have to be specific. In fact, I think it works best if you leave how is up to the universe. Your inner knowing knows what you need. Trust it to bring it to you. All you have to do is notice when it shows up and interact with it accordingly. So, if you get a great offer for a job or a romance, you might want to say yes. If your perfect mate shows up, making some time in your schedule might be a good idea. I'd also play more. Be curious. You're never going to see the ways that the universe is conspiring to bless you if you're controlling everything. You will see all these opportunities as obstacles, so relax. It's your fighting with the world that got you here. To dance with it, play. At the end of all our lives is death. If we get to that day laughing, it'll have been a pleasant ride. If we get there tied up in knots because we're trying to do it right and control everything, we might feel like a good person or a righteous person, but I doubt that happiness is along for the ride. I think by keeping things simple and reducing it to the barest elements, it makes an easy bite to digest. And everybody can do every day in every way. I'm getting better and better. It may not get you all the way to healing, but it puts you in the driver's seat and gets you started. But if you like structure, and I know that faking fine types do, another very simple thing you can do is aim for the middle path. Rather than going for 100% and performing each time, accept balance and moderation as your goal. I cannot overestimate how this can change your life. It makes it easier to say no, avoid overscheduling, relaxing, and avoid overdoing. It makes it easier to walk away, say yes, and do the things that you want to do because the middle path is so much easier to stay on than the wild ride in the extremes. So, what does the middle path look like? Well, rather than going all out for the holidays, maybe you downsize your decorations, have a budget that you stick to, and do only one or two social events. Does that sound like you'd have way more time to enjoy it? This could change that I need love face to a loving face. See what I mean? If you're obsessed with investigating the unknown and this is something that conjures fear for you, you may commit to only giving it a set amount of your time so that you can spend time with people, doing self care, doing something else that can enrich and balance your life. If your paranormal group is focused on horror stories, anger, or conspiracy theories, and you need a break, I invite you to try mine. The link is in the show notes, and the group is focused on basically what I just talked about. We're open minded about what's going on and what it means. We realize that reality isn't what's been told to us, but we're dedicated to getting through life with that loving face on and sticking to the middle path. I cannot tell you how doing that has opened my spiritual path up and has released a lot of tension. I don't have to know the answers. I don't have to have a strategy. If I'm living in this moment until the next one comes along and keeping it real, it's all good. And if you'd like to do that with me in good supportive company, come on over. You're welcome here. So, you get it, right? Faking fine is a cry from help from your core self. It's you saying, I need you to relax and do something different. And fortunately, you can. Thanks for listening. We're going to get through this together. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week. Ciao, guys.